All right. Welcome everybody to this not live episode of the Fulfilling Destiny podcast. So this will be recorded. It is now Wednesday, the day after election day, at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I sound a little bit dour only because it's been a very intense 24 hours since election day had happened. But well, while we wait for those results to come in, figure like, well, let's have another talk about health disparities with a little bit more emphasis in maternity care, especially for Black women out there. So joining me today again for the second time, I'm with Elise Gary. Thank you for coming in. And we also brought a new friend. We have Nicole Deis. Deis?
It's Dice.
Dice. Oh, okay. Makes it so much easier to remember. So yes, Dice. Anyways, yes, Nicole Deis. So,
yes, just think Vegas.
that's actually a great way to think about it. But anyways, I'm with two incredibly talented women here today. So it's great to have both of you here with me today. Elise, for the second time, it's great to have you back. It's good to see you again. And then Nicole, for the first time, I'm really happy to see your face. And you're very bubbly. So it's adding some like good vibes I'm like trying to soak up right now. So here we are again. Here we are again. So other than having these two here, just a couple inserts. So we will my English is not that great today. Jeez. I guess I didn't have my coffee this morning. But anyways, so just a small disclaimer for those who will be listening to the audio version of this podcast. Some topics do come up that could be either triggering or very sensitive for you to hear. So if that is the case, we're just letting you know now that we're trying to have very deep moving conversations that could be uncomfortable. But in order to have these talks comfortably, we need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And there's only so many times I can use the word comfortable before it gets overdone. So that is the insert for today. So we're going to hop back into it. So we're going to take, she is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Gone girl, gone.
Gone girl. Well, until she comes back, at least accidentally disconnected for whatever reason. In the meantime, since Nicole, I was getting to know you a little bit better, how about for the rest of your audience, you want to fill them in on what you've been up to since the pandemic or even before the pandemic up until now?
Well, pretty much I've just been a student trying to accomplish earning my education. I just graduated from SDSU with a health communication degree, and now I'm a first-year student at USD, earning my master's in nonprofit leadership and management.
Ooh,
and
fancy.
My end goal is to get into women's healthcare advocacy. I just don't think that anyone should tell a woman what she can and cannot do to her body, regardless.
Unless you are a woman.
Yes.
Unless it's like you are a person in their shoes and you are going through the same experience they do, they should ultimately have the choice. I know that's been like going around a lot ever, like it's always been reiterated over and over and over again, but to everyone who likes to tell us how we should manage our own bodies, one, that's not appropriate at all. It's like, you're not living in my shoes right now. You don't have the body that I do. I think I know what's best for me.
Exactly.
So that is something that a lot of people out there who don't really seem to get it. Yes, it tends to be men, but even then, sometimes even women, we like to pick and choose how we control other women as well. That could just be mad dogging other women or gossiping about other women, about how they dress, what they do, their business, their money, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Well, that's great though. So women advocacy, that's the end game. So a couple of years for now. That's for you.
I hope to be done not this May, but the following May. So May 2022. And I hope I have a ceremony, since I did not have a ceremony for undergrad.
Well, here's your ceremony now. Congratulations for graduating.
Thank you.
Your undergrad degree. It's very hard, but it's always those big after parties later. Just give it some time so we can
Yes.
rack up a big after party.
Sounds perfect.
That sounds perfect. What happened, Liz? The internet just died.
Yes. I had no service on my, I thought so last time I did it on my laptop, this time I thought, okay, for sure, let me do it on my phone. My phone just went out of service. It said no service.
That's
Poor
unfortunate.
thing.
I don't understand. Technology is getting better, but yet worse at the same time.
True.
I mean, you still have good. That's my editor. He's hopping in. He just popped in the door. So, but it's good to have you back. Thank God. We were just slipping in on Nicole's own background, just so our viewers can have some context, since both of you guys, that's incorrect. You ladies are still continuing your education onward. In the meantime, I'm just currently waiting. I'm waiting for an acceptance to come back, but I'm hoping to continue my education as well sometime in the near future. If not, try again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Try
Never give
again.
up.
There we go. All right, since at least now that you're back, we're gonna piggyback a little bit from Dr. It's weird here saying Dr. Record and then Rachel, since we're calling her Rachel last time.
That's so true. That's so true.
And it's weird for me to call her Rachel because she's Dr. Record.
Yeah, so it's like Dr. Record, if you are listening, you will now be called Dr. Record. Just because I'm just.
And if you are listening, we love you.
We love you. Like if you were here right now, yes, I would call you Rachel. But since we are referring to you from a far enough distance, Dr. Record it is. Anyway, like I said, piggybacking from Dr. Record's episode, we're gonna do another quick recap. So at least since looking at our talking points, you want to explain health disparities now, and then health disparities and what it means for Black women out there.
Sure. So basically, just to recap, I know Dr. Record gave a very wonderful explanation of it, but the simplified version, when I explain it to other people, is just health disparities just refers to the difference between groups when it comes to a particular issue. Like that's like the best way to explain to people, like, oh, I get that, I understand that. And so today we're talking about what that means for the Black community or the African American community. We can use them interchangeably. I'm comfortable with that. And particularly talking about maternity care and how that is important. And there's things like insurance, and there's things like health in itself. There's many different factors in maternity leave, but overall, we're talking about the issues that comes with Black women just trying to give birth.
And I know that especially motherhood, especially for first-time mothers, or even if it's your third or fourth, motherhood is really hard. And I know that comes with, well, this is just from my background in studying, and also because I have a degree in biology, it's a lot of rapid changes will happen to your body, especially if you're going to be a first-time mother. And I know that it's been like parroted in my ears, like, do not skip out on prenatal care, especially since prenatal care, obviously, will give you some of the vitamins and nutrients that you might need, especially when you go through about 9 months worth of growing. And I know that it's not as affordable for everyone out there if they don't have insurance, or especially if it's out of cost. And I know those, I guess, medication, those nutrients and vitamins, they do go out pretty quickly, and it's dependent on the body as well. I know that not every woman takes it well, so that's also something to think about. But the factors that you said that influence health disparities for maternity leave, you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So in the U.S., particularly, we're number one. I can tell you that. If you,
we're number one in what?
It's not a good number one.
We are number one in making sure that you do not get maternity leave.
There we go. That's one.
There's only about 4 states that allow you to have maternity leave, and it would just be 12 weeks of paid maternity leave. And that was created by the FMLA, Family and Medical Leave Act. That was created in 1993. Now, when that started, there are people, of course, lobbying against it, saying, like, we shouldn't have to burden the employers with a personal decision, but this personal decision is what drives the industry to keep going. You don't have babies, you don't have someone to replace your job. So interesting. But like a few of those states would be California, New Jersey. I believe New Jersey, yes. The other one is Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So those are the ones that will give you paid time off for 12 weeks. You know, the other option is if you have to be on bed rest, that will be covered through EDD, and you get, I believe it's 4 months of that before you have your 12 weeks off. But 12 weeks, that's just 3 months. You know, that's not a lot of time to, you know, let your body readjust. And especially if you had a C-section, you know, the stitches and everything. Yeah, that, you know, just the sleepless nights of your child, like, you know, out of your stomach and then needing to breastfeed and then needing to burp, needing to change. It's a huge thing that goes into it that people really don't understand. And 12 weeks is not enough. 3 months to figure out, okay, am I going to put my child with like a daycare, or am I going to put my child with a family member if I'm blessed to have family, or if they are retired, things like that. So, yeah, but basically only about 12% of Americans have access to paid maternity leave because of the so small amount of states that offer it, which means like employers have to decide whether they see that as an incentive, you know, to give you that. But where that causes our issue is that means if you are working a low paying job, only 5% of people are going to have access to that. And a lot of women of color are working low paying jobs and therefore are on their feet, and you'll see people, you know, I will not blast any companies on this podcast, but if you think of a job where you've seen someone on their feet, they're 8 months pregnant and they're still working, you know, 30 hours a week, you know, it's hard, you know? So it's very interesting. And then you think about, what about the mothers who have unpaid leave? So they have to save up their vacation time and their sick days, you know, to go ahead and have this child. And so, yeah, that's just one of them.
And then also to follow up with Elise with her good information is you don't even get your full pay. You get a percentage of that. It's either 40 to 60%. You still pay taxes on top of that as well. And some states it's only 8 weeks. So another fun fact is dogs and cats have more time with their puppy or kittens than women do with their children.
At least here in the US, right?
Correct. You cannot adopt a baby or a pet until they've been away or after they're 12 weeks old. Whereas a child, the majority is 8 weeks maternity leave in America. We're the only first world country that has this low, where the women are allowed to stay home. In England, they get a year and they get their full pay, full benefits, because also women can lose their health insurance if they do the Family Act leave, because then you're considered furlough sometimes, just depending on your company. And I'm sure a lot of people have been experiencing that during the pandemic. When you've lost your job, you've lost your health care. And then Medi-Cal and Medicaid are there for us. We're lucky in a sense, we're in California, that we do have that access. But then you got to start, if you were already seeing a doctor, your OBGYN, well, you lost your health care. Now you got to start the Medi-Cal situation. That could take months. And then what if you're 5 months along and now you've lost your benefits, back to the medicine, your care? Now you might have to find a whole new doctor, and you're going to be more of a pushed around. And that also is an added stress that as a pregnant woman is the last thing she needs, especially if she's already suffering from preeclampsia and all these other issues that can happen for women while they're pregnant. So it's the maternity leave is a gigantic problem in America, and yet it's not something that's talked about. Not to get too political, but when you have white older men running our country, why do they care about women taking time off to raise their babies? Because I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming most of these men have nannies in their lives. So they don't understand how a woman that's even middle class, how, the complications that brings. And then also, as Elise brought up, is your child care. Let's not even begin with that. Now you're supposed to bring your brand new baby to either a stranger that's watching 10 to 12 other children, or if you're lucky enough to have someone home to help you out, or do you stop working to stay home to raise your kids? Because in the long run, with the child care being so expensive, you realize if you're a lower socioeconomics class, you're maybe making $100 to $200 more by the time you've outsourced daycare. So it's a gigantic, I feel, hole in our healthcare system for women.
Oh,
Yeah, I know we've tried to combat it with the ACA, Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as we know. Not necessarily maternity leave, but working in maternity leave so it can be more affordable, because you do need those medicines, prenatal vitamins. Like, yes, you can probably go ahead and go to like the drugstore and get some prenatal vitamins off the shelf, but also the care that comes in with seeing your doctor and tracking how long and making sure everything's okay, because complications do happen. And if you're just not seeing a doctor, you don't know what could be going on. So it's really nice and really great that the Affordable Care Act was able to offer healthcare at a lot, not as expensive. I'll say it like that, for people so that they could sign up for healthcare. Just the only thing is, after that, now you have to find a provider, and some providers don't take the ACA. So that's another uphill battle that, you know, if you lose your healthcare and you have to go to that, going into this it's a very difficult process.
It sounds difficult, and I guess, sorry, I don't know if this is on. I think it's just my thing is getting a little slow on me. When it comes to, like you said, dealing with the stresses, like finding a provider, keeping up with one OBGYN, because for me, I would prefer having stability. I would only want to see one doctor, especially if I'm going to see that one doctor for 9 months. It better be someone I could trust for 9 months, and then shuffling around to find someone else new, especially if you're, like I said, if you are, for air quote, furloughed from your job, because sometimes they will boot you off until, you know, you could come back. It's not, to me, it doesn't sound fair. And I know that there are some, like probably the minority women out there who could keep working on their feet and feel perfectly fine, and, you know, don't want to take maternity leave until it's like the last, like until the baby comes out, like right when the water breaks. And I know that some out there, like you said, the low socioeconomic classes probably don't feel the same way either. They do want to take a break. They want to rest their feet. They want to make sure that nothing else could go potentially wrong, especially in terms of their own personal health and their baby's health. So that's so stressful. Which brings up a little story that I have. I have an older cousin who just recently had her first baby this year. But as far as her maternity leave went, I believe she went in maternity leave in March. I don't know if she's paid, but it's been about 3 months, and then she's already raring to go back to work. Like, she's ready to go back to work. And she might just be in the minority that she's just ready and she feels comfortable, but then, you know, also she has the privilege, she has my family to look after her little one while she's gone. And yes, we do it safely. We make sure that one, the baby's comfortable with us, and then two, we're always, you know, wearing a mask around it because she's small. But like you said, that privilege, like, we don't ask her to pay us for watching her little one. Like, we're family. We're going to do that for you. If you need to make your 9 to 5, we'll watch her for 9 to 5. It's not like I'm going anywhere, really. I get to spend time with my niece. I just spend time with my niece, but, you know, at the same time, like, having to pay someone else to watch my kids from 9 to 5, that's exhausting. That's why when my mom was raising me, she took a night job instead. So while me and my sister were at school, she's always at home. So in case something had happened, or in case we need to take a sick day, she's there instead of having to hire somebody outside. But the difficult thing is that raising two girls when she's not around that often, that's also pretty hard. But that's a different thing. Having to pay someone for a sitter overnight or over the day, that's a lot of money that you could be using for groceries or your own personal needs. So this is so stressful. My motherhood is so stressful.
Yes.
To my mothers out there, first time, or if it's your second, third, fourth, fifth time, thank you for putting up with the rest of the world right now. We don't give you enough credit for that, but please just bear with us. We're trying to figure it out. I'm really begging our politicians to really try to understand like why it's so hard for low socioeconomic status people are really reliant on, I guess, a lot of social programs. Am I right? They do rely on some social programs to get by, like food stamps and all that.
Yeah, but with the Black community, their birth rates, it does not see a socioeconomics class. This affects, it goes from the lowest to the highest. Serena Williams has been an advocate for explaining how Black women are facing this health disparity, and it doesn't see a socioeconomics class, because if you look at the statistics, the Latinx population, they don't have any birth rate problems. They don't have it compared to the Black community. And it goes to kind of what you were saying a little bit ago, is the stress. And the Black women, they face more stress than any other race in America right now. So a lot of that, as doctors don't listen, they get, like you were saying, shuffled around. Regardless if it's their first child, second child, or third child, Black women face the stress of their family members. They don't always have a health or a good birth story to share in their community, where most other races do have. Even if it is kind of a scary story, they were able to fight it and bring their baby home. Where in the Black community, there's a very the same. Exactly. It's very high low infant mortality rate, mothers dying, all across the board, regardless of what your income is.
That's actually surprising. I did not know that. I really thought it was, again, like I said, I thought it really was in terms of socioeconomic class. Like you said, Serena Williams, I thought like the higher you are up in the bracket, right? Especially notable celebrities who are Black, I thought they would have, like I said, better birth stories, right? I didn't think it was just across the board that it's not great. Low birth rate, high mortality rate. That's, oh gosh, that's a different type of hurt. I was not expecting to hear this morning. No, but that's no, it's a grave thing, and I'm glad that you brought it up and educated me on that, 'cause I definitely did not know that was the case. A different extra struggle for the Black community to go through. Is it also because of we're just gonna dip our toes into this, but is it part of, I can't English, geez, when your OBGYN is white and then you are a Black mother for the first, second, third, or fourth time, is it also like a racial bias that the Black community doesn't know, air quote, doesn't know what they're doing with their babies? That's why there are some extra added complications to the birth.
Well, I wouldn't say that Black women don't know what to do with their babies, because when you leave America, when you look at the statistics in any other country, even third world countries in Africa, they don't have a birth problem.
Oh no. I meant that the perception, from the perception of like a white doctor looking.
I feel like it's just the stress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming from a white perspective,
right.
Just like the stress of racism that is rampant in America, and the stress of that. Lisa and I had a class last semester together where we read this article about a woman in New Orleans, and her doctor never listened to her, and so they're trying to start an advocacy of doulas. So I'm not sure if people know what doulas are, but a doula is pretty much usually a woman that stays with the mother from when she finds out she's pregnant to even post-labor to help with breastfeeding. But then you have someone to advocate for you in the room. So when a doula will know a mother's wishes, like, I want to have a vaginal birth, I don't want a C-section. So when the doctor comes in and doesn't want to deal, sadly, Black women are pushed to the side, like they don't get to make up their own decision. Where as a white woman, I would be like, no, I'm having a vaginal birth, so
right.
get to step in, and that's not the luxury that Black women get to have in the labor and delivery room. So with the doula, they have that voice that they need, and they've also created a relationship with this person throughout their pregnancy, where now they have a trust and a bond. And now you have a doctor that's listening to a doula, because even though they're not usually quote unquote medical trained, they still have training. Some are nurses. There's all different types of doula programs out there. But it's showing a lot of improvement having this advocacy. And then we're going to throw in COVID. Now in the delivery room, you're only allowed to have one person if you're allowed to have anybody in the room while you're giving birth. And as a first-time mother, I wouldn't know what the heck's going on. And now to be in a room with masks, nurses are only allowed to be in rooms for a certain amount of time due to COVID. I'm sure medical staff is stressed with COVID. And even more stress, even more complications, causing even more problems, where if you have a doula per se, it would be very, I think, life-changing for the whole community of Black women over the board. So I don't know, Elise, what are your thoughts after? Because that article to me was when that was my aha moment.
Wait, hold on. Before we go into Elise's opinion, I just want to make this, I guess, a distinction, okay? Because this is I heard doulas before, but the most common word that I hear, I don't know if it's the same, if it's like apples to apples or apples to oranges, it's not the same as a midwife?
No, midwives are medically trained. So a midwife is medically trained. They can come to your house, have birth. Where a doula, like I said, some are medically trained and some it's like a class that you do. And they're more for like I said, advocacy, more of a support. So they can't have the baby come out and cut a cord, where a midwife would be able to do that.
In case something has happened. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Because like I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it because I wasn't entirely sure. So at least the way that my mom told my birth story is that she had a midwife. My dad was unfortunately overseas to do his military service, so he wasn't with my mom in the room. So it's like, okay, so it seems like nothing went wrong because, hello, I'm here. But it's like, did you have a midwife? She said yes. So that's, as far as I know, I thought midwives could do something similar at least. But it seems like it's only in the birth room.
Midwives?
Is it up just in the birth room, or is it even beforehand?
I think it's like your birth plan of what you want as a woman to choose. If you want to have a midwife, then you're usually going to have more of a holistic approach to birthing, whereas you might not go to the hospital. You might want to have a home birth. Some of them have facilities that women will go to have their babies. So a midwife is usually something in that nature, where the doula would even be with you with the midwife. A doula is like your partner in crime while you have this baby.
Okay, it's a different type of companionship support that you might need that may not be your partner in that room at the same time. Okay, so that I feel a lot better knowing about it now, because I'm just like, what is the difference? Oh my god.
Good question. No, because everyone asks, so it's a really good question.
So, but that's so doulas are more, I guess, it's starting to come around that people should advocate for more doulas for women out there in case that they might need it. So that's a great thing. I would now, if I'm planning to have a child, I would highly consider it, because I am a very anxious person. Definitely having somebody who, like I said, with or without medical training, who seems to go the know around for 9 months, it's definitely reassuring. I mean, yes, you can have other mom friends, but you know, the experience is always unique with every child, if it's your first, second, third, or fourth. But that's great. So other than doulas, what else could also help Black women out there when it comes to having a child for their first time, at least? Like, do we need to bring more legislation out there, or is it just they just need more extra care? Like, what do you think that we need to do to make sure that we have more healthy babies out there? Especially, we don't want more dead babies. We really don't.
Go ahead, Elise. I see your
Yeah.
brain going. I see
Yeah.
your brain going.
I see your eyes like.
Share your thoughts.
I do. Honestly, I really do want to know. It's like, what do you think that needs to happen? Especially since, like I said, this is the day after the election. Legislation will change. Like the Affordable Care Act, depending on who's going to be president, it's going to change. We have the judiciary, about to hop in some of those hot topics like Roe v. Wade and other, among other things, like how we control our bodies, our access to birth control, or other types of contraceptives out there. What since those things are going to be rapidly changing in the next 4 years or so, in your perspective, Elise, for Black women, what do you think needs to change to have more healthy babies out there?
I guess from my own personal experience, I do not have children.
Okay, that's fine. It's perfectly fine.
From my personal experience, first of all, just like listening to Black women, not necessarily when it just comes to, civil rights, because yes, that's important, but also when it comes to like when a mother is giving birth, or just simply when they're expressing what's wrong with them, they're not being hysterical. They don't have thicker skin, because there are still medical textbooks that say that Black women have thicker skin and can handle pain more. And so when you have these
pain more.
Exactly. So when you have these thoughts, when that's what you've been educated on, that these women have thicker skin, that these women can handle the pain, and when they're crying out for help and that something is wrong, and you're like, they can handle it, they got it, no big deal, it leads to issues. And so just by understanding and listening is very important, for doctors and nurses to do. That's why I hope everyone can be comm majors, boop boop.
Right. Or take more than the intro class, at least more than the intro class.
I actually was a comm major before I switched.
And I'm the opposite. I was a bio major and then switched to comm.
Honestly, I tried to do both before we get sidetracked. I tried to do both, but the comm classes in my labs just did not.
Yeah, they're a lot.
No, but like you said, you need to talk more. And yes, if you are in the university or the junior college level, please take some more comm classes. It's actually pretty beneficial in my personal opinion. Definitely do it.
Well, it's not the talking, it's the listening part that's not happening.
That too.
But they do teach you that in comm classes.
Yes, they do teach you that.
Sending and receiving, the receiving part's the hard part for some reason.
Speaking of which, right, from our last podcast together, Elise, you brought up PCOS, right? Polycystic
ovary syndrome. Yes.
So what I wanted to ask, like I said, this is a little bit more personal. I wanted to ask you, you're Black, and when you do go to the doctors, do you experience those things where you're telling your doctor, yo, this is something's not right, and they're like, nah, you're good, like chill, don't worry about it?
When it comes to my PCOS, definitely. And I know with PCOS, it's the leading cause of infertility. And I already didn't want to birth my own children. So when I found out I had PCOS, I was like, great, an additional reason to not go through this. Absolutely wonderful. That's no shame. People
the silver lining, I love it.
But me personally, I don't want to do it. I don't care. I'd rather just adopt. I'd rather be a foster parent. That's just me. And that's a whole conversation for another day of why I believe foster care is super important, but another podcast. And so, definitely like just like a recap, having like I guess like distance between your periods. Usually it's like every 21, 28 days. For me, it was like every 35 days. Every 40 days, then I'd get my period. And then it'd be super, super heavy. And, the nurses and stuff would ask me like, oh, is this normal for you? And I'm like, I mean, I guess, but I didn't know that normal was not normal. If that makes sense. So And so like, okay, well then you're fine. But then things just kept getting worse and just kept getting worse. And I kept asking, and they're like, well, if this is normal for you, then you should be fine. And it wasn't until like I went to an OBGYN and I was like, hey, I haven't had a period in 52 days.
52
Hope I'm
days?
not pregnant. Yes. And so I was like, what's going on with me? And she sat down and she was like, okay, well, let's go down the list of things. And then that's when she finally was like, okay, we're going to do a vaginal ultrasound. You have these cysts on your ovaries. And, you know, if one of them were to rupture and you just thought it was a cramp, that could create sepsis and that could be extremely bad for you. And so it's really difficult because it's just something that also happens after pregnancy. You are likely to develop cysts on your ovaries. Sometimes they go away, sometimes they don't. And so that's just like an additional thing and hurdle that we don't talk about, especially like in my community. Like when I told my family, like, oh, I have PCOS, they're like, what is that? And I was like, well, my periods are messed up. And they're like, okay, well then just don't tell anybody. I was like, no, the whole point is to tell people so they know. And so it's weird. It's weird. Like we want to be heard, but sometimes we also silence ourselves. And I know that sounds super counterproductive, but it's like, you know, you want to make sure you save face. Little calm term. You want to make sure you put on this. Yeah, basically, you want to make sure things like look okay, sound okay, but things aren't okay.
Yeah, paint the picture, paint the perfect picture.
Yes.
So actually, another follow-up question to, like I said, your PCOS story. So how long did it take you from realize like something was wrong to getting a more like distinctive help, like instead of going to like your yearly physician, right, where you do your normal checkups, and then picking an OBGYN to like, yo, something is completely wrong? How many years, months, days did it take to go from that?
I started noticing that I had something like wrong with my periods when I was like about 15. And they did some blood work. And they're like, nothing's wrong. And so I was like, okay, but I know something is wrong. And so like I would talk to my mom because, you know, that's the female in my life and that's who I look for guidance. And this is not me trashing my mom at all. You know, she knows as much as she knows. And so she was always just like, well, that's normal. Like everyone has irregular periods, you know, everybody is different. So, and then I was like, eventually when I turned 20, so for about 5 years of going through this, I was like,
and through high school.
Oh God.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I was like, you know what? Something is wrong and I need to talk to someone about this. And I like completely went against my mother, which culturally and like in especially in communities of color, like you don't do that. You don't. You take their word and you keep on going. And when my mom found out, she was just like, oh, well, I guess, you know, like, I'm sorry I didn't know. I'm like, I'm not saying it like, you know, like, mom, like, it's your fault. But, you know, it's like, it's just something that we have to talk about. And my mom was like, I don't think we should talk to people about this. But I think we need, it's like one of those additional things where we have to normalize conversations like this.
So it's
because
it's that's the thing, is it's not a period talk, it's taboo, it's a stigma. But why? Every woman has their period, or if they don't, there's a complication as to why. And then it kind of goes back to, if we can bring it back to Ms. Aya and all the amazing work that she's doing, is trying to eliminate the stigma of a woman or individuals having their period, because not even everyone identifies as a woman that has their period.
Yep.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
If you will, I'll go ahead and quote Elise. That's a whole nother podcast. But it's just the more we talk about our period and normalize it. And I don't have children either, but I come from a lot of nieces and nephews. And my one niece told me, the divorced parents, welcome to America. And so when she's at her dad's house, her and my sister have a code word. So if my niece starts her period, she doesn't have to talk to her dad about it. And I'm like, no, your dad should have feminine hygiene products for you. So if you do start your period at his house, I just don't want her to live. I want this new generation to be like where my nephew carries a pad or a tampon in his backpack in case one of his friends needs it. Cause he's like, oh, why don't boys have it? Well, I feel everyone should know how a tampon works, how maxi pads work, the feminine cup, which I personally think has been a game changer, and I love that, the menstrual cup.
Saving money.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention, you could just have it all. Half the time I forget it's there. That's another podcast is feminine hygiene cups too. So
there's actually one in the works, but I haven't been able to find a date or a guest for. So
yeah. Well, I could talk about feminine hygiene products or cups too. So
okay. Well,
it's just to normalize it. Is the big take-home message is if your knee is bleeding, everyone will come to help you to give you a Band-Aid. But if your vagina's bleeding, all of a sudden we're grossed out. Blood is blood, regardless of where it's coming from.
It doesn't matter.
Snap.
Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox.
No. I feel like that needs to be on a shirt or something. So, like, if any of my Fulfilling Destiny interns or my future sponsors, please help me make shirts about it to normalize it, because it's partly because culturally, like you said, we don't talk about some of those things. Like your mom told you to keep it on the down low, and you shouldn't have to, because there might be another girl, another cisgender woman out there who might be going through something similar. Like for me, I'm very irregular, but as far as like symptoms goes, it's not to the point where it's PCOS. It's just I'm very stressed all the time. Hormones are out of place. I tend to skip a cycle every so often now and again. The longest I went is like 3 months. And I know I was not sexually active at the time, so it's like, definitely not pregnant, definitely something's wrong, but, nothing else that signifies too many red flags. But, it could be different for another person. Whoever skips, it leads to a disastrous or a very painful period. Especially, I have a couple friends who have endometriosis. Those are pretty painful, and I sympathize with them because I can never understand what that feels like. So some already made those options to cut their ovaries already, or to, do what's necessary. I know a friend who had to get surgery 3 or 4 times because of like the cyst that popped up, and it needs to be cleared out. And like I said, they are now towing the line of infertility, which is for some women, it's very personal. They want to have kids and now they can't. So that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, I was about to say there's another one too, because it's the society pressure that women have to be mothers. If we're not mothers, then we're not women. So
I mean,
I feel like we're outlining for all these other podcasts to come. Sorry.
So this will be episode 6. So we already passed the 5-episode mark, which again exceeded a lot of my expectations. I was hoping to do 20, or if we keep going further. So it's good to outline some of these things now, because yes, they're tangents upon tangents, but these are still going back to very fundamental things like women's health. Yes, especially period health, right, or menstrual health is very important, and we do need to talk about these things. And it's especially things that I don't know because of my own cultural taboos or biases. I did not know about PCOS. I didn't even think to project like my future position on having children in the future. It's like, is there even a chance that I could have infertility in my family lifeline, or is my body capable of carrying a baby to full term? And that could just be like my hips, my size, my weight, getting diabetes, like gestational diabetes, that's a thing too.
Yes.
All those other complications could arise, especially in people of color, and especially, like you said, the Black community, low birth rate, high mortality rate, which I really was not expecting. So that's kind of an eye-opener for me. So it's just like, that's so much to think about. And we're going to have to continue to think about in the next couple 4 years. I'm trying not to doom scroll, like reach for my phone to doom scroll right now. It's really freaking hard. But especially homeless women out there as well who are pregnant right now. that's a whole different story. I don't know if the two of you ever met someone who was experiencing homelessness while pregnant.
I did one time.
Oh, really?
I volunteer with Planned Parenthood, and when I do the community outreach, we were at a homeless, like once every other week they have a homeless, I don't know how else to call it, but they'll have the showers come, they have a washer and dryer service, they have food, they'll have nursing students to give out vaccines. This was right after the Hep A breakout was real rampant here in San Diego. So this lady was pregnant, her sixth child, 26 years old, sixth child. I don't even know, I forgot how many different baby daddies. She's now experiencing homeless because her partner was abusive towards her. He was arrested. He paid the bills. Now she's homeless. And she already lost the care of her other kids. And so she, being the fact that I volunteer with Planned Parenthood, she was like, well, what can you guys do for me? And Planned Parenthood does advocate, or it doesn't necessarily do, I can't think of it, where you get your tubes tied. I'm just trying to think of the medical term for it.
Sterilization.
Yeah, sterilization.
So she wanted to get that done, that procedure done, and I didn't even realize this either, but Planned Parenthood will help facilitate you as a patient to get that procedure done, especially for someone like her, because she wanted it. 26, 6 kids, and she wasn't even, and that was for me another aha moment. That's when I really realized where I wanted to put my energy in was to women's advocacy, because women were silenced, and it's mind boggling to me that it's 2020 and women are still silenced regardless of their race, regardless of their political views. It does not matter. Women are silenced. We don't have a horse in the race, sadly. It's starting to evolve. You can see the change happening, but we have a long way to go in America. And I mean, just to bring up the news again, I'm not sure if you all have been watching what's going on in Poland. The women shut down that country. Yeah. They shut it down. That would never, I would be shocked if that happened in America. Mind you, I would shut down. I'm not going to have someone tell me what I can and cannot do to my body. But to me, it's very eye-opening when you see this countries come together, and then you have America. Even when you watch the election, could it be more 50-50 divided? And America's very 50-50 right now, regardless of your views. We are not united, if you will, as the United States of America right now. And
that's putting it lightly.
Not that I want to blame one person, but I'll go ahead and say I'm 42 years old. I've been voting since I was 19. I was 1997. And I've never seen this divide like this ever in my life. And I hate to be a part of history in the sense that I am witnessing this, and also the value of my voice, being a white woman, an ally, standing up. And it's just coming to terms with the injustice that really is happening in America right now, and the lack of unity that is on display is heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, I think I know that Dr. Recker brought this up before. It's just like, I think this actually happened off air when when the three of us were still continuing conversations. Like, you can't be silenced. There was talks on the table, but nobody cares. So to the point that someone needs to start screaming it constantly, just for someone to get a clue. And like you said, take a look at Poland. No woman in Poland, our Polish friends out there, wants to go back to back alley care for whatever reason. They wanted to have it safely. They didn't want to have it done, within their own choice and their own personal decisions. So to have women basically shut down their country for that size too, that's actually pretty amazing. I was really happy to hear that they're coming around, that they're now talking about, like, okay, we hear you now. Let's try to get this sorted. But then, like you said, here in America, it's not the same here. I thought it would be a bigger movement here, especially for a lot of our younger folk out there who could see the value of women's health care. And to my friends out there, my viewers who support women of all kinds, right? Don't take for granted your healthcare, especially if you have the privilege or you have the access to go get checked, to get medication, to have resources, right? Like you said, like doulas or a second opinion. Always, I advocate for a lot of things. One, women's healthcare, to fight to defeat homelessness, and then always have a second medical opinion. Like if it could, yes, it could be your mom or like that one female person in your life who understands you medically and sound. It's like perfect, that's great. But if you're always like towing the line of being unsure, try to get a second opinion. And in this case, at least, like when you went to go talk to an OBGYN, not to say behind your mother's back, I'm just saying, like, I'm glad that you considered a second medical opinion that's not just your mother's, because it could be life-saving. At least in your case, it wasn't to the point that you were sick and in bed, and then, thankfully you're still here. But I know that for some people, they are diehards of not talking to other people unless it's like their mother figure in their lives. Like, no, unless she says, I won't go. And I know that I've done it too. It's just like, well, my mom says it's all right. She's a nurse. She has experience, but she's like, well, then again, she takes care of geriatrics instead, the older folk. She doesn't know really the younger folk issues that goes around my mental, social, and physical health. So that's a whole nother thing. But always get a second opinion. But
and listen to your body. That's what Elise did. She knew.
She listened. Yes,
she knew, and that's something that a lot of people don't follow through with.
Trust your gut. Honestly, you know yourself better than you think you do.
Yes, and like circling that like back to our topic of like listening to yourself, listening to your gut. That's something that we as women and also non-binary people as well do have. And so it's really important, and especially when you're giving birth, don't doubt yourself. When you feel like there's something wrong, go ahead and say it. Doesn't matter if they call you hysterical, which the root of that is hysteria coming from your, uterus area. But it doesn't matter if they call you.
You're just about
hysterical.
To push a child out. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If
you're being dramatic, no, there is a reason that this is going on. And like for my mom, or delivering me, she was in labor for 25 hours.
That's
and I was
just way too long.
2 weeks late. Yes.
2 weeks late?
I was 2 weeks late. I was supposed to be born on June 22nd, and then I ended up being born by C-section on July 4th.
Hey, we're July babies.
So,
high five.
Yeah!
Yes. No, sorry. I didn't even put that out there.
No, it's okay. So like one of the things that is given to women that doctors believe is helpful, but actually has been proven not to be helpful, is Pitocin. And Pitocin is Pitocin. Pitocin is a pill that is given to you that is supposed to help alleviate some of the pain when you're going through contractions. And so it's just to release, it's an artificial oxytocin that's supposed to be releasing to help with the birth.
Right.
The problem with that
it helps speed it up as well, yeah.
The problem with that is it's artificial.
It's not normal
real.
oxytocin.
The body knows that it's not real. And so it creates complications for not only the mother, but for the baby as well. And you find that in more cases of women who have been given Pitocin are more likely to have a C-section because it causes more intense contractions, causes the baby's heart rate to go up because you're introducing this new drug into the body. And then what that is like, okay, well, we have to do what's best for the baby. We have to save the baby. And so then you have a C-section. That did happen to my mom, and it's happened to thousands and millions of women.
I was about to say, I'm sure it's in the millions by now. For sure.
The odds of me posting this visually on YouTube for the visual recorded version, if people are listening right now and you could see my face, it's like horror struck. Oh my god, no.
Yes.
And this is not including epidurals or anything like that. It's this is before
Correct.
that.
No, the Pitocin you usually get when, like, let's say your due date's July 3rd and it's
Right.
now July 5th. They're going to induce you. Pitocin will be
okay,
introduced to the
okay.
body. Also in IVs, like it's literally a bag of an IV that goes into you.
Oh,
But
not
then
a
what
pill.
happens is it's pushing the baby out. But like Elise was saying, your body's not ready. So then you're not contracting. You're not opening up. Your uterus isn't opening up. So
Oh,
the baby's not ready or the body's not ready for whatever reason. But the doctors, they also start to get concerned because the longer you're pregnant after your due date, then your baby's growing. So now you might have a 10-pound baby, an 11-pound baby.
Yeah.
So then you're going to have other complications. So it is a fine line that you are writing. Like, what are you supposed to do between the Pitocin, not Pitocin? It's definitely, and then this is where a doula could come in or a midwife, because they would have that knowledge to advocate.
Okay.
Because most, like, if you were pregnant, you wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't know about Pitocin. And let's be honest, I don't know, but everyone I know that's 9 months pregnant, the only thing I ever hear out of them is, get this baby out of me. So if someone's telling me I can have Pitocin and this baby's coming out, I'll be like, where do I sign?
Sign me up.
Right,
Yeah.
sign me up.
Yeah, I don't want the epidural, the Pitocin. I want to get this show on the road. But they don't know that actuality, you're causing harm to yourself and also your child. And another complication with Pitocin is because you have Pitocin going through you, you gave birth to your baby, your placenta came out, now you're not contracting back down. Now you're bleeding uncontrollably, and now you're having other complications, and sometimes you might even have a hysterectomy and lose your uterus because they can't stop the bleeding. Well, the bleeding's not stopping because you haven't contracted down because you still have Pitocin in your system.
Oh, and there's not an easy way. There's not a quick way to flush out the Pitocin, obviously, because it's an artificial hormone. It's gonna linger around, right?
And the baby's still in charge. The baby's gonna come when you want. So if you're pumping all this Pitocin in, and now it's in an IV, it's in your blood. Same with like the epidural. Once you get the epidural, they put it in your system. Sometimes you can't push because the epidural was so strong. Well, now you're ready to push, and you can't. And then you get a C-section.
So there's way too many like right, kind of like on Facebook where you see like yes or no, and it goes to another box. Yes or no goes to like how I think about pregnancy right now, or at least the birthing process, like epidural, yes or no, yes or no. It's just that's.
But also, regardless of your choice, you should not be judged by it. I don't like the mommy shaming, like, I had it natural. Well, okay, good. Here's a sticker for you. I chose this because that's what I wanted to do. I feel like there's a lot of shaming. Women shame women, and I don't understand it. Instead of uniting together and just being like, high five, we gave birth. We brought life in. Like or you become a foster parent. High five, you're taking care of life. Like, I feel regardless of how parenthood comes to somebody, someone should never be judged of the path that they took to achieve that goal of their life, or maybe they had to take over a niece or nephew or whatever. It's just back to the whole, I just wish women would empower women. I mean, we all wear the shirt, but do you really follow through with your shirt or your post or whatever?
I really want that to be more of a thing, especially like motherhood is hard, for anybody, like I said, taking care of a niece or a nephew because they had a rough home life and you're that one person, or you're being an adoptive parent, or it's your first baby for the first time, that like C-section or vaginally, preference or home birth, and in the hospital, those things, like you're gonna be a mother at some point to like your own, or maybe to another person out there who's looking for a mother figure in their life. Mothers are being mothers, and if we're gonna keep life the way as it is, and not to bring back politics, but it's just like we are gonna be mothers to a type of a degree. Just don't tell me what to do about it, so I'll figure it out. Just give me guidelines, give me help when I do need that help, and don't make it that freaking difficult for me. Like, please don't give me red tape that I need to, don't give me hoops to jump over. Just let me do my own thing and it will work out. You know, you're not gonna be happy about it, but it's just if it's gonna help me, at least it helps me and helps somebody just like me. So
yeah, and especially like if like I like to say it's pro-choice and anti-choice because all it is, it's a choice. It's what it is. And if you're someone who is anti-choice, that's totally fine. But don't stigmatize or don't try to like, you know, cause barriers for women who are like, well, if I not stick with this choice, don't give me hoops to jump over when I try to feed this child. You know, like don't call me a welfare queen just because me working 2 jobs, you know, 30 hours a week is not enough to put food on the table for this child. You know, let me have some help. Like, yes, there's WIC out there, there's CalFresh or EBT, food stamps, all 3 are interchangeable, but don't try to hinder me from trying to get these things. I'm gonna mute myself real quick.
No, that's fine.
Downtown life.
So Elise lives in the downtown area of San Diego, so there's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something wrong. Hopefully, nothing too serious. Especially
See, maybe they just know it's time to burn down the system. Just kidding.
I'm sure downtown's boarded up too because of, you know, protesting.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yes. But just like you know, women of color, yes, do use welfare programs, but so do also poor white women as well. And
of course,
you know, we like to keep the stigma that it's, you know, the black welfare queen who's just living off of welfare, but there are also poor white women as well who are using it and using it more than women like myself who are black.
Right.
So, you know, it's really important that we sustain those programs because I know those programs have been trying to be chipped away. And so things like WIC, things like EBT or CalFresh, definitely keeping those birthing classes, keeping those available when you have a lot more education on like what it is that you're going to be doing through the whole birthing process. I guarantee you that a lot of people don't know what Pitocin is. They know what an epidural is.
My first time that I've heard about it, so this is something,
you know. So getting some like further like education and knowing like, does your state or does your job give you maternity leave? And if not, what am I going to do? Like, how much am I going to have to save up? And, you know, things like that, and just like the cost. Because bringing a life into this world or adopting life into this world, it is a lot. And it is something that some people have the privilege to do. And, you know, and there are a lot of cases where women don't have the choice and they are forced to read between the lines as you will on that. But yes, and it happens. So down with our sisters and non-binary people in Poland who understand that just because you try to outlaw abortion doesn't mean that we won't still have abortions. We want things to be done safely. And if we want to do that, we have to start with education. And things like this is very important on educating people on what happens. So, yeah.
You hit the nail on the head, too, because abortions are still going to happen, regardless of if they're legal or not. So we need to make sure that they are provided a safe way to have abortions and a safe, without the stigma. You don't know what someone's story is. To why they have to have an abortion. And also, I don't think it's necessarily fair to decide if the woman, because now like they're talking about just the first trimester. Well, some women don't even know if it's an unplanned pregnancy until right after. Because if, let's pretend it's Elise and she has irregular periods, it's common for her to not have her period for 2 to 3 months. Now all of a sudden you're in your second trimester. I'm not putting this on you, but I'm just using it as an example.
Right.
Like she's like killing it with her education right now. Okay, she's trying to get into USC for her master's in public health, and sometimes that baby's just not in that plan. So it's her choice to do it. Well, now she can't because she's in her second trimester. But that's not. It's regardless, it's her body, it's her choice. And I hate it when people go, or I dislike, I hate to use the word hate. And
strong dislike?
Right, very strong dislike with a capital D. And abortion or adoption, well, I'm connecting with this child, so how will I know how I feel in 9 to 10 months if I want to give my baby up for adoption? I don't know the statistics on that, so I can't speak for that, but
it's complicated.
I just, exactly, that's the key word, it's complicated. And then it goes back to the voting and who you have in office. The Supreme Judge is gigantic, which is a life sentence on there.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
That one meme, all connecting.
Yeah, but it even goes down to like your local. I don't think people realize how important the local elections are. Like, who is in your district? Who is voting for, even going back to defunding the police and having the funds allocated to things that could help people rather than tie them down and cause more problems. I mean, even just living in City Heights, there's police everywhere, but I don't see a lot of advocacy going on for my community here in City Heights. And you just see people getting arrested, but there's obviously jail's not helping people. Prison is not, another tangent. Prison is not helping.
No, it's fine. It's just like in terms of
it's just all connected.
It's all connected. It really is.
Yes.
It really is. But what it really does come down to is we'll start like with the average. We'll say the average woman, the average cisgender woman who have biologically female. They need to be able to make decisions for themselves. And yes, I know that there are women out there who advocate for other women, but sometimes it slips out that their own personal biases do come out. And it's like, don't do it that way because it's not the best way. Maybe not for you, but it is for me. And like you said, like with Elise and I, we were at least I'm irregular, but Elise had something else going on. When you do have a couple of months of a gap in between your periods, it's concerning for some. And then like you said, with Planned Parenthood and at least an abortion, it's one service. It's only one service. There's a lot more that other like healthcare facilities can offer to women out there. We're just focusing on the most polarizing like concept of it, which is not necessarily fair either, because there is way more, as we spent about an hour, a little bit over an hour about, there is so much more going through the body that needs to be considered before we even reach that step. Like what has changed from like step one, like to your like puberty, your first period, up until your first, second, third, fourth, fifth child. There is going to be a lot of rapid changes, and the more, like I said, the more information we get out there for women out there to realize this, especially to those who are not educated as much, those who don't watch the news as much, or those who are just kind of gliding through life right now, just do know that there are options out there. And if you do have female friends like that, let them know that there are some things that they should know. And then whether or not they take those advices to heart, in terms of their own personal health, or like I said, if they're mothers, their own baby's health, that's for them up to decide. Let them make the choice. Otherwise, we are going to be doing what other, we'll put it lightly, we're going to put it to the other people out there, especially those in power. We're going to be doing the same freaking dance over and over and over. And we don't want that for at least our future generation. So that's my soapbox for today.
I love it.
As we're concluding, at least for this episode, because I would love to have both of you back, since it sounds like we got a lot more topics to talk about, so I'm excited. But any closing thoughts?
Well, that's so funny, because then I was about to start another soapbox about sex education, and I was going to ask Elise, when were you educated about your period? Because
we can do that for the next episode. Honestly.
Exactly, because only 23 states teach sex education. 23 states out of 50. Yes. The reaction you're giving me is exactly what I want to see, because it's dumbfounded that. So sadly, and if you would have had that, you would have known that your period was irregular to then go get help from the doctor, and it just.
No,
I
no,
can
no.
bring it back to your conclusion. This is where the calm comes back in.
Okay,
All
okay,
right.
okay, okay. No, no, no. Like I said, like this having this review here right now is telling me that there is a lot more that we could like literally unravel, especially, and then
Yes.
especially it is part of the list of topics that that's actually on my thing that I do want to talk about is sex education, because like it's like I mentioned before in my other episodes, and even now it's just like from when do we really start thinking about our own personal health that's not coming from our parents or guardians or, you know, anyone who's taking care of us? It's like, you know, then there's obviously all those other middle gray lines of some things have happened for some things to change, but we're gonna put it there because there's just some very big trigger words that are there, but we're just gonna put it there. We're just gonna put it there. But back to Elise, what's your closing soapbox?
I like that closing soapbox.
Off the record, I'm taking your word and I'm abusing it right now. Tell me, what's your soapbox for this closing for this episode?
You know, people are gonna have babies. People are gonna have abortions, no matter how you try to change the laws about it. And you know, it's really important that we continue the education of what's going on with bodies, and I know there needs to be further education with like the non-binary community and the trans community when it comes to that. That's a whole different struggle for them. We've just been talking about cisgender women, but you know, for trans people, that's a whole uphill battle.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think it's really all the way. And so I think it's very important that we have that education, because no matter if you shut down a maternity ward, that doesn't mean the baby shut down too. They're still gonna have
there
kids.
There it is. It doesn't stop there.
So it's really important that, you know, that we talk to people, especially get our male allies in as well, because sadly we live in a world where still it's going to be either a male who's gonna like, oh, it clicks now it makes sense, and then decides to advocate, or it's going to be a male who's going to be elected onto a board to talk about female issues and has no idea what they're doing. Hasn't experienced a period in their life, has a code word for when their child is, you know, on the rag, their whatever you want to call it. Yes. When I was in elementary school, we called it Japan because Japan had a white flag with a red dot. And so
oh my gosh,
in school you have white pants and then a red dot. So things like that.
That's crazy.
It's someone who grew up in Japan, that was a bit of a, like, no pun intended, a red flag right there.
Yeah,
so sorry.
No, it's completely fine, but like that's a different thing, like literally living in another country when it comes to that. Luckily I wasn't there. I can't say luckily, I wasn't there at the time that I started my puberty, but that's a told.
Culture has a big aspect into it as well. Yes,
it does. But yeah, in my soapbox, trust your instincts, educate ourselves, let's become less taboo about these things. I know it's uncomfortable, but if we don't have these conversations, we're just going to stay in the dark and let other people make decisions for us. So, yep.
Well, so I got my two, including myself, 3 soapboxes. So it's honestly, like, yes, this episode's a little bit longer, but I think it's worth keeping the length only because there is, well, obviously because of this week, is very important for us Americans out there, especially our female Americans out there.
I was about to say us women Americans.
Women Americans, just, you know, it's, like I said, it's a lot that's going to change, and while we figure out what the results are going to be, it's something that we do need to keep our eye on it. But it just means that I will be hopefully seeing you two a lot more often. You want to do another one sometime soon this month? I know November is coming up. I know the holidays are coming up, so I would love to have you on before we take a Thanksgiving hiatus. I know, at least for me, I would love to have a Thanksgiving hiatus for myself. But it's a lot. I think we all deserve a little bit of a break, and then come.
You gotta have balance. You're smart.
Self-care, health-care, mental health, it's all important.
There we go.
Yes.
All right, to all my viewers who will be eventually listening this live this Friday, just be aware that I will have these episodes available always up on YouTube. Just make sure to check out the YouTube links. Check for any warnings that I might put there, like certain topics that did come up today, that could be concerning for some of you out there. Check those out first, and then to my Spotify users, it will also be there as well. And as for to people who have a hard time with audio processing, and to the deaf community out there, I will always put closed captions, my personal closed captions, at least a day or two after these episodes go air quote live. This is recorded, but it's live enough. It's live enough. So again, Elise and Nicole, thank you. We're just gonna clap our hands together so I know where to slam this edit, and then we'll have a quick discussion on how we felt about today's episode. All right. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. See y'all later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.